All right, welcome on into the studio. Today we are going to talk about all things wax. So, I'm going to talk about why we use wax in our pottery, modifying wax to make lid wax, and then wax application. So, wax is commonly used in pottery glazing to prevent glaze from adhering to specific areas of the piece, particularly the bottom or other parts that will touch the kiln shelf. So, we use wax for a couple different reasons. We use it to prevent sticking. We use it for ease of cleaning and certainly controlling glaze application. So I like to use a special kind of wax, which is called lid wax. And I actually don't just use it on the lids of my pots. I use it on all parts of my pottery. So what I'm going to do here is show you how to make it. So we're going to take 8 ounces of Mr. Marks's wax. It's a water-based wax, my favorite wax. And we are going to add a tablespoon of alumina hydrate to the wax. And the reason that we would do this is it really creates an opportunity for there to be alumina hydrate on the parts of the pottery that are touching the shelves because the wax is going to burn away in the firing and leave that alumina hydrate behind. I oftentimes will have some plucking of my clay in glaze firings, especially when it's on on silicone carbide shelves, like advancer shelves. And so I really find that this helps to ensure that I don't have any sticking of glaze during my glaze firings. So, I obviously added that tablespoon to the wax on. I'm now labeling a container with specifically what I'm going to put in it so that there's no confusion in my studio of exactly, um, you know, what might have been added to the wax. And so I'm going to go ahead and write 8 ounces of wax on this along with 1 tablespoon of aluminum hydrate. So you can see that there. And we'll go ahead and, really mix in the aluminum hydrate. Sometimes it kind of clumps up in there. And so really getting it mixed well is an important piece. All right. So once this is mixed up well, you can go ahead and get it into the container that you're going to store it. Be careful. Obviously, you're not putting wax all over your table. It is again water based, but still can sometimes permeate different surfaces in your studio. So go ahead and get all of that in there. This will keep pretty much indefinitely within your studio. So, and I pretty much use this throughout my pottery practice, both of course, when I'm using it on a lid, as the name implies, it's lid wax, but I also use it on the bottom of all of my pottery because, again, I find that it provides the best protection for the piece to not stick to the shelves. And then, just as we talk about in general why we want to use wax in our pottery, in addition to preventing sticking, the ease of cleanup, if glaze were to get on the bottom of your piece, it's just so much easier to clean up when there is wax there. So, why don't we go ahead and wax some pieces and I can show you the application. So I'm just going to grab a couple things from my studio, a craft brush, a rag to wipe my hands, and then my banding wheel, and we will go ahead and get started. All right, so let me grab some bisque. You can see here this has a nice foot ring, and we're going to go ahead and apply some wax to that. I find using a banding wheel for anything I threw on the wheel actually makes it a lot easier to go ahead and wax that the bottom or the foot in this case. So, you can center your piece on that banding wheel a lot of different ways. I oftentimes just use the rings that are on the banding wheel, get that centered, and then you can see here I'm just going to apply a very thin layer of wax to the bottom of my piece, keeping in mind that wherever wax touches, glaze will not adhere. So the only way to wipe away or fix where wax may be placed, if you didn't want it there, is to actually re-bisque the piece. You can't wipe it away. Sometimes you can sand it away, but it really oftentimes is just best to rebisque the piece to get rid of the wax. So, okay, let me grab some other bisqueware and that I need to wax, kind of clear off my workspace, and then just show you kind of the overall wax process for a lot of different pieces in my studio. So I'm going to speed this up just because obviously you don't need to see every single piece, but really I try to focus on using everything that I threw on the pottery wheel first and getting that waxed and Again, I choose to wax everything in my studio so that I have no issues within the kiln. Obviously, you could potentially decide that you don't need to wax certain pieces. But again, I really find that glaze that gets on the bottom of the pot, even if you are able to wipe it completely clean, still leaves a stain or a mark. And this I just find gets the best lines in terms of that glaze. So, what where I change my practice is when I am waxing things that are hand built. So you can see here, obviously these are not conducive to being on a banding wheel for placing wax. And so I really freehand making sure that I'm getting wax on all surfaces that touch the bottom of the piece or the pot. And, importantly, I always err on the side of coming outside of those lines because being inside of those lines and getting glaze there where it could stick to your shelf, ruin your piece, cause you a lot of time and effort in terms of grinding your shelf down and getting that glaze off, it just isn't worth it. So I always kind of find where I think the edge is, and I make sure my brush is actually on the outside of that edge where that piece touches the kiln shelf. And obviously not the focus of this video, but wax can be used in a lot of different ways on your pottery. Probably most notably is defining to specific design areas. And in those cases, I would actually use wax without alumina hydrate. So this is really wax that's utilized for the bottoms of your pot where they touch that kiln shelf and leave that alumina hydrate behind to really act as a lubricant so that the clay does not pluck and that glaze at the bottom of your pieces doesn't stick. All right, I hope this tutorial has been helpful. Check out my other tutorials that are available on different studio practices as well as pottery projects. Until next time, have a great day.